When I get older, losing my hair, many years from now, will you still be sending me a Valentine? Birthday greetings, bottle of wine.
Good afternoon, and thank you for tuning in to Berkshire Senior TV. I'm John Lutz. I'm the Executive Director of Elder Services of Berkshire County. And we're happy today to have David Capeless, the District Attorney of Berkshire County, with us. David, thank you so much for taking the time out.
I'm glad to be back, John.
I guess we'll just jump right in. I know all of us who are loyal Law and Order fans or television fans think we kind of know what the District Attorney does, and you're there fighting crime and prosecuting cases. But I know for you, it's a little bit broader than that.
Strictly speaking, the job is that I'm elected to be the people's attorney and to prosecute all criminal cases, on behalf of the general public in our courts. But, people expect that it isn't strictly being that lawyer, that, I'm responsible for justice and safety in the community. In order to do that, a number of other factors have to come into play, and that's can involve crime prevention, community awareness and outreach. And when I became district attorney a little over 12 years ago, I right away instituted a community outreach and education program. And we've been very active ever since. Most of the programs are operating within the schools with our kids. It aimed at education about prevention and the like. We've received some recent public notice about our life skills program,
right.
Which is aimed towards that. But we're also looking towards helping seniors as well. They're a very important part of our community. When I was elected and I was sworn in, one of the things that I stated at that time was that I vowed that I would give special effort to protecting the most vulnerable in our community. And that included children, those with disabilities, and seniors. And so one of the other things that I did was to set up a senior abuse program within the office, a unit. Same people have been doing it ever since. And two of my most senior staff members, each with over 25 years of experience. My first assistant, Paul Cacaviello, and Mary Shogri-Heyer, who is the assistant director of my victim assistance program. And they've been overseeing all the cases that we get in. We get a number of referrals from various agencies, including Elder Services, unfortunately. Right. They prosecute, going back over the statistics the last 5 or 6 years, about 30 cases a year. Most of them involve financial exploitation. But I gotta tell you that, studies indicate that typically only about 1 in 7 of actual cases get reported. That's a shame, and it doesn't allow us to be able to reach out and to serve the community the way that we should. There's a lot of factors involved in that.
Right, and I think one of them is often it's family members that are involved.
There's that. There's overall a shame,
by the elder themselves.
By the elder feeling that, but particularly the idea that if it's a family member who's done it, the public shame that the family is dysfunctional enough that a younger member of the family would take advantage of a senior in that way is something that people just don't want to admit to. The other thing too is that seniors are become increasingly afraid that if they let people know that they've been taken advantage of, they may lose their independence. That people may think, oh, maybe you can't take care of your finances, or and independence is obviously very important. So it's a tough thing for us, and particularly in these cases involving family members, we we have a hard time getting people. We know it's happening.
Right.
We realize the situation, but getting their cooperation can be very difficult.
Now, I know a couple things with, especially with, as the official term is, financial exploitation.
Right.
One of the things would be what is the decision-making process? For people, maybe help people understand. People might have the impression, well, you would prosecute every possible case, but what kind of decision-making goes into where you're going to take a case, or that when Mary and Paul are working with folks, how does that, what are the factors that come into those kinds of decisions?
Well, one of the most difficult situations we deal with is the fact of we have to decide, to be involved and to execute and get involved in a prosecution, whether or not it's actually criminal. Mm-hmm. The fact that somebody's done something wrong and taken advantage of somebody doesn't necessarily mean that it's a crime. This is particularly true when seniors execute a power of attorney, mm-hmm. or some document similar to this in which they give the authority to manage their finances, to another person, and typically a family member. Well, some of these documents are so broadly worded that they're basically, giving them the money.
Right.
And I'm hoping, we've become very concerned about this, and we're working with the local legal community. One person I do want to mention publicly is Attorney Virginia Stanton-Smith, who has been very much involved with this and working great, and she's mm-hmm. done great. And I want to put together, working with her and others, a training mm-hmm. for those within our courts, our bar, and also with the judges. The idea that these documents can be very helpful, but they need to be very restrictive,
right.
so that they're only for the purpose of the senior. So that if somebody does go and write checks for themselves, they can't say, I've got a contract here which says I can do
right.
what I want.
Well, I know that and Virginia and Paul and Mary and I and others are working on the folks at Berkshire Elder Protective Services are working on, with you around this training, and we're going to try and bring in the financial services people who might be doing an elder's taxes. Like, well, if something doesn't look, like maybe, because that might be the only opportunity to say, something doesn't look right here.
Well, that's a great
right,
thing.
Right.
The other part of it that we're trying to work with is not just at the beginning to make sure that we have, documents that help the senior rather than expose them and make them vulnerable. But at the same time, seniors are coming with their, financial institutions such as the banks or with other planning mm-hmm. Professionals. That people are looking for signs, that they're trained to go, something doesn't seem right here. A good example of this, in a great effort that's already been made here, is our Greylock Federal Credit Union. Mm-hmm. Their president, John Bissell, has done a great job getting training for his staff when they see seniors, particularly knowing symptoms that are having to do with Alzheimer's, mm-hmm. dementia, mm-hmm. the people are having difficulty. This is a difficult time, particularly for seniors with electronic banking. It's not the same that they're used to. Right. They can help them through this. And so the tellers at Greylock have been trained to understand this situation and to be able to help people through it. And then ask other questions, whether or not there are other people involved.
And I know, and John and Karen Riley have been working on this committee as well. And I know one of the things that I learned, people often think, well, let's make this simple. We're going to help with a family member. We'll get a joint account. And and it'll just make it easier, all right. But as you said, sometimes it's the very vehicle by which they've chosen to facilitate kind of the logistics that creates the opportunity for then, well, has a crime. I mean, again, you're saying, yes. Okay, this is a joint account. Where if they're named, then legally it's they share the account.
Right. And the only way that we could do something about that was to prove that there was some sort of a fraud involved mm-hmm. in them getting the account, or in fact that the senior was not competent.
Right.
and they're going to fight that.
Of course. So
You know,
yeah.
they're not going to, so there's so many of it. So hopefully that getting people trained to the idea of prevention, stopping this from the very beginning. I mean, this is part of the whole key to another program that we've been involved with for a number of years prior to my becoming district attorney, and that's the Triad program in here,
Perfect.
which was started by former Sheriff Massimiano. My predecessor, Jerry Downing, got very much involved with it. That brings together law enforcement with seniors to talk about safety. You know, an important thing for seniors is to be active, to be independent. Well, in order to do that, they have to feel safe. And so there are so many aspects of our lives that can be daunting. And so Triad is an effort to take away that kind of a burden, that fear, by introducing that. They have monthly meetings, and they talk about various safety kind of aspects. Some of them are more general in the sense of, you know, if you're going to be away and with mail and deliveries and things of this nature, and making sure it's taken care of, people coming to your house and how to deal with them. And then there were scams, you know, getting called on the phone or people showing up at the door and what kind of questions to ask and that sort of thing. And it's been very successful. You know, right now we have 5 triads, North Adams, Dalton Hinsdale, which was the first one, Pittsfield, Tyringham, and then down in Alfred, Great Barrington, Egremont. The age,
yes.
yes, which is a great acronym, you know, for that. So that's good, and that's been a really good program.
Well, and I think you know, one of the values of Triad and those is just the gathering of people and, you know, sharing of information. Have you heard this? Have you done that? I mean, you know, it's
Yes.
just invaluable because some, you know, people can, one, it takes away that fear of, oh, I'm the only one, or I don't want to say something.
Yes.
Because they can start to share information.
And it's not just, you know, the one way from the police explaining to them about safety, them explaining situations that they have amongst themselves so that they can understand that. And these things happen, you know.
And it really lessens the kind of embarrassment or, you know, feeling like, oh, that was stupid, I shouldn't have done. No, you know, the folks that are perpetrating these things are professionals.
Yes.
And they, I mean, you know, any of us, you know, especially now, you know, on your phone, on your computer, you know, it's incredible. And it's hard sometimes to determine, is this legitimate or is it not?
All right. Well, you know, in talking about, you know, senior safety, one of the things that we got involved with a number of years ago was what's called the file of life. Let me put that.
Just the space bar there.
That's.
Oh, it's okay. Oh, there.
That's
okay.
Up. Yeah. This is a magnetic sleeve that typically would be put on a refrigerator, and inside it would have, it's two-sided, would contain all sorts of medical information. And the idea is that in people who are first responders in an emergency situation know to look for these kinds of things, particularly if you've got, with a senior, may not be able to remember all medications, this kind of things. They may not be in a position to talk.
Right.
And
Likely
so,
living alone.
Yes, and so they can grab this, take it with them, and use it, and obviously hand it over to the hospital personnel if that's what's going to be required, so they can deal with somebody. And we started this with the Triad program and distributing these, and so far we've gotten over 5,000 of them distributed throughout the county. But as we have gone through this over the years, we realize that, you know, we're handing them out to people, and that in order for them to be truly effective, may require a trained person to sit down with them, make sure it's filled out properly, and then also to make sure that it gets updated.
Right.
So we reached out to Elder Services, and because we thought that a great way to widen the audience for this, but also have the kind of intervention and that training for people, was the Meals on Wheels program.
Right.
And it's been great working with Elder Services in this. and to explain to people how Elder Services has taken, in making sure that each time I guess a new customer comes in, that you introduce the file of life for them, try to get out to all the existing ones. And my understanding is so far we've gotten over 1,000 of them.
Yeah, and I think it's that just like with the triad, or it's that sharing of that basic information that can make it make such a difference in a critical time. Maybe an elder is incapacitated, or they're unconscious, they can't speak. This information at least gets the process started, gives emergency personnel the information they need, or contact information for who to call and those kinds of things. And it's just basic, do these steps to keep yourself safe and hopefully secure.
Well, and it's a benefit not just for individual seniors.
Right.
Their family feels comfortable with the idea of knowing that, with this kind of information there, that if there is a situation that arises that requires emergency personnel and they're not around, that's going to be there.
I mean, that's always, the Meals on Wheels program. Yes, it is a elder nutrition program, but the other part of it is the daily wellness check. And families find that just as important, if not more so sometimes, to make sure someone's actually seeing their loved one on a daily basis. Right. We can't really talk about information like prescriptions and those kinds of things in this day and age without talking about opioids.
It's a real problem. Obviously, people are aware at this point that it's nationwide here within the Commonwealth and here in Berkshire County. We've got a very serious problem. And this particularly affects seniors. Seniors are a significant part of our population, particularly here in Berkshire County.
Right. And growing.
Yes, and growing. They're also, obviously, understandably, a very significant population to be prescribed pain medications. And so not only are they the ones getting these medications, that unfortunately that makes them in a position of being a potential source for them. If they're not protected, those medications can get out into the street, they get abused, and unfortunately they're resulting not only in addiction, but in all too many tragic cases in deaths from overdoses. And so, seniors have to be very concerned as grandparents and parents that family members can be abusing them. So many different studies and our own experience has shown us that the great majority of abused medications are coming from legitimate prescription sources,
right.
Such as from seniors, whether they're getting them directly or that they're getting it and then they're selling them and then they're getting resold out on the street. But that is where they're coming from. And so, there have been a number of programs that we've gotten involved with in order to combat this, to make sure that these medications only go to the people they're prescribed for, and then if there are extra medications that they don't get out onto the street. And so once again, turning to Elder Services, instituting the program with the prescription lock boxes. And if we can show that, these are what these boxes look like. As you can see, they have a key lock so that they don't have to remember a combination.
Right. We had that conversation about what should they be, what they should not be, and we were trying to work through that.
And you can't see the holes they have or the mounting information, but these can be mounted inside most medicine cabinets, and screwed in.
Right, they're standard sized.
And or actually within a drawer, because you want to make sure that they are not only locked, but they're secured so that they can't just be picked up and carried off. And we've started distributing these through Elder Services, which has been a great program. And people have been targeted based upon Elder Services information of what kind of medications people are getting, who are the ones that should be getting them. And my understanding is we have 50-something so far that we've distributed, and we're looking to get more out.
Yeah, it's been a great program so far. And again, I think, like you said, we can see on the front end as we're assessing someone, oh, we see that you have these prescriptions. Perhaps you'd feel more secure or safe. And it also helps with, and I know that we've been involved with some cases in your office and with Berkshire Elder Protective Services, one of the things that makes elders particularly vulnerable around this is that there are often many people coming and going from their homes in any given day or any given week. And you know, it's family members, it's people providing services, assistance, whatever it might be. So it's very hard sometimes, even if there is, you know, some missing, to really determine, well, when and if or who was involved.
Well, that is, and so therefore you got them locked up. Right. It's only when they're going to be used, and then of course, you know, other programs that we have when they're you know, when they're at the time that they no longer need the medications. And so we've, you know, been involved with a number of the take-back programs that have been held twice a year, and we've had tons and tons of medications. Literally. Yes, absolutely, that have been turned in all throughout this. And at the same time, what I've been also instituting so that people don't have to wait and store them up, which can be a dangerous situation in and of itself, is getting out permanent, what we call drop boxes. And if we can show that. We have these, there's one box shown there, I believe this one in Pittsfield Police Department, that in police departments throughout Berkshire County, we have these boxes. As you can see, all the listing there of all the different stations that have them. Anytime you want to, you can take these unused medications and bring them in and drop them off. These things are typically just like a mailbox. Open the slot, put them in, and you know that they're going to be safe and not get abused. The only thing we stress to people is that those who take medications through a hypodermic syringe, what they call sharps. You can't put those in there for obvious for safety reasons. But this is a great program that that does help this, and this is now permanent, so people can go and do this. They can go down today. They don't have to wait for any of these take-back programs.
Which is great because, you know, you can, I mean, even in our own medicine cabinets, you can walk in and, you know, there's prescriptions from 3 years ago or something, and this gives the opportunity, just when the opportunity knocks, just go and do it, get it out of circulation, and be done with it. You know,
and one thing I didn't mention earlier when we talked about this whole issue of, you know, seniors being potentially a source of drug abuse from these medications, and how it can affect so many other people. A very sad fact is that right now there are something like 34,000 grandparents in the Commonwealth who are taking care of and being the parents for their grandchildren. And 80% of those are due to the fact that the parents of these children are addicted to opioids and are incapable of properly taking care of them. You can see not only the great tragedy that's involved with opioid addiction and what it does to families, but also in a positive way, how, you know, important our seniors remain to the fabric of our communities, being able to hold together families in that fashion, that they're the ones that get turned to and they can fulfill that role.
And we, you know, and we've even seen that in some of the families that we're involved with, where there's, you know, multi-generations maybe living together, and often sometimes, you know, it can create great stress and dynamics, but it's not unusual for when you kind of pull the thread and you go back, it starts with opioid addiction, opioid issues, those kinds of things. Somewhere that came into the family dynamic, and it just started, you know, a house of cards kind of falling apart.
A comment that I often make when talking about addiction, and too many people view it as, you know, somebody uses and they have a problem with addiction, and I say to them, they don't have a problem with addiction. Their parents and their children have a problem with it. Their siblings and their friends have a problem with it. Their neighbors, their community has a problem with it, because it spreads out, because it doesn't just affect a single person. This is, and again, it's not just a voluntary thing, because you become addicted, the voluntariness is gone.
Right, exactly.
And so it's a health issue, and we need to deal with it. And I'm just glad that we can team up with, you know, with Elder Services and these different programs to help fight this, because it does affect so many in our community.
I know this has been a very serious topic, but I know you also take a special initiative to bring generations together. through the district attorney's office, and I want to give you a chance to talk about that.
Well, one of the programs that I have instituted is our youth advisory board. I mentioned at the beginning of the program, community outreach and education program, going out into the schools, having programs for kids. Well, you know, we're adults, and if we're reaching out to kids to want to have contact with them, talk about issues that affect them, talk about issues that are important to them, well, we need to know how is best to reach out to them. What are they thinking about? What are they concerned about? And so we came up with the idea of gathering together high school students and to come and talk to us and tell us about that and get involved with programs themselves. And so our youth advisory board has a junior and a senior from every one of the high schools in the counties, not only all the public schools, but also Miss Hall School. And so we get the continuity of a senior who has been there for 2 years, and then new blood coming in each year with the juniors. And they do a variety of projects. The most important one that they've worked on for the past, I believe, 4 or 5 years now is they have a special day for middle schoolers, which they put on over the Crown Plaza, and it's a fantastic thing that they work with. But one thing they do with seniors is each year in December, around the holiday time, they go to an assisted living facility, not only to meet and talk with, but to sing songs and have fun and do that. And I know that the seniors get a great deal out of it. Now I'll tell you the teenagers always tell us what it is a great time that they have, and sitting down and talking with people and learning from them. And so it's that's such a rewarding program.
Well, and I think it's important, to also to have very serious topics and things, opioids and financial exploitation, but to show the other side. There's a role here, and for the district attorney's office that a community role, not just a criminal role.
I would hope that people don't view that what I do is simply being involved with the negative side of life, and all too often, I do get involved with the community when things have gone horribly wrong. We also want to be involved in when things are going horribly right, to make sure that they aren't going wrong.
We could talk a lot longer, and I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're incredibly busy, but our time has gone by, and I want to thank everyone for watching, and thank David Capos for taking time out of his busy schedule to be here today.
Glad to be here again.
Thank you.
I've been out till 2:45. Would you lock the door? Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 60?